freighter forged northward toward Narvik, that remote Norwegian fjord harbor serving as the vital artery for Finnish nickel ore shipments to the Reich's voracious foundries. Precious metal destined for the Krupp behemoths, churning out 88mm flak shells, and the Messerschmitt factories riveting wings for the Luftwaffe's faltering falcons. Tucked amid the jagged labyrinth of the Lofoten Islands, approximately 200 kilometers beyond the Arctic Circle's invisible threshold, where the midnight sun clung tenaciously to the horizon in summer's endless embrace, and the polar night's velvet void swallowed days whole in winter's unyielding grip. Narvik's deep waters had boiled with bloodshed in 1940's ferocious clashes, where British destroyers like HMS Cossack had traded salvos with Kriegsmarine cruisers amid the fjord's echoing thunder, their 4.7-inch guns flashing like summer lightning against the midnight sky, hulls listing in the oil-slicked swells as depth charges drummed the depths. Now the Royal Navy, having clawed naval dominance in the North Sea's unforgiving expanse, their home fleet a steel armada steaming from Scapa flows. Mist-shrouded anchorage prowled our path with a lethal triad. Battleships' broadsides booming from beyond the fogbanks. Submarines' silent sentinels lurking like krakens in the kelp-shadowed canyons. And carrier-borne swordfish biplanes droning low through the leaden clouds. Their bi-wing shadows skimming the wave crests like predatory skuas. Torpedoes slung beneath like silver sides poised for the reap. Our vessel, a battered tramp steamer rested from Hanseatic merchant runs and hastily recommissioned into the Kriegsmarine's gray ranks, bristled with token defiance. A handful of 20mm flak 30 pom-poms sputtering futilely from makeshift mounts, their brass casings ejecting in hot arcs, and MG-34 nests manned by sailors with wind-chapped cheeks and eyes ringed by perpetual dusk, their gloved fingers hovering over triggers like anxious harpists. We sustained unremitting vigilance, Kapok life vests chafing against sweat-sodden woolens like a perpetual penance, their sodden bulk a sodden reminder of the sea's insatiable appetite as we strained through salt-stung binoculars for the telltale feather of a periscope or the contrail's cryptic scribble against the slate-gray vault. Berths lurked in the hold's abyssal underbelly, a steel sepulchre reeking of diesel's acrid bite, bilge's brackish belch, and the faint, cloying rot of unwashed humanity. It was in that iron crypt, amid the ceaseless throb of triple expansion engines vibrating through bulkheads like a subterranean heartbeat, and the drip-drip of condensation pattering like indifferent rain, that I imbibed the third tableau of Roper's tragedy, his fragmented fate unfurling in hushed recitals over flickering oil lamps, the narrative's chill seeping deeper than the fjord's frigid draft. The climb conspired a confederacy of cruelty, bone-penetrating cold that clawed through layered greatcoats and balaclavas like the talons of Jormungandr, perpetual penumbra where the sun skimmed the horizon like a skipped slate, casting pallid smears on ice-floe flotillas calved from the Lofoten's glaciered flanks, with muffled avalanches that echoed like distant drum rolls. Deck forays dwindled to desperate dashes, stolen inhalations of brine-lashed air sharp as shattered glass, the northern lights occasionally unfurling their sinuous veils of viridian and violet across the masts, a cosmic borealis ballet mocking our mortal machinations, lured back by the hold's fetid fug, the porthole's porthole a portal to peril. Casually, I voiced the void's calculus. How nimbly could we scramble from this steel sarcophagus should a U-boat's kiss consign us to the keel? A weathered matrose, his beard a hoarfrost hedge and eyes etched with the equator's endless watch, clapped my shoulder with a sailor's stoic shrug. Fret not, Nabe. The Nordsea's nubile is nimble nectar. Its hypothermic hush harvests in heartbeats halved, whether you cling to the casing's curve or cartwheel from the casing's crown. As if that sepulchral solace sufficed not, he appended with a gargoyle's grin. A lunar cycle passed, a collier kissed a tin fish off Narvik's narrows, name nebulous now, but nagging as a nightmare, vanished vehement, soul sloshing below in slurry, lungs leaden with the leaden deep, while the deck's dozen savored the svelte shiver of polar plunge. Neptune's nuptials in numbing nanoseconds. Your pick, protracted perdition or prompt perish. Silence sealed my lips, for revelation rent the veil like a rending sail. The doomed hulk was Roper's own, his final flotilla. The Torpedoes tryst a treacherous tryst that thrust him to the trench's tenebrous trove. In ensuing dawns, Roper shadowed closer than in life, his specter a steadfast shade woven into the warp of my waking, as palpable as the pulse of the propeller shaft thrumming through the planking like a dirge from the deep, his half-Jewish heritage a haunting half-light in the hold's half-dark. As we ghosted past the capsized Tirpitz's twisted turrets in the Tromsø fjord, that beached behemoth, her 38 centimeters barrel skyward like feudal fists against the fjell's forbidding flanks, her hull a rusting requiem, where barnacles feasted on the fallen in silent symposiums, the wreck's whisper a whisper of the Wehrmacht's waning. He was kin to the sailors' shades sloshing in the scuppers before our gaze, their oil-slicked ghosts gliding in the gunnel's gloom, bubbles bursting like belated breaths. He was my comrade in calamity, kin to Paul Walter's stoic command in the Carpathian's crags, where eagles wheeled o'er the eagle's eyries, the blind man's unseeing, unblinking valor in the Volga's verge, where the river's rush rushed with the reaper's rhythm. These souls shared scant save subjugation to the same maelstrom, each essaying endurance by his innate ethos. Roper's quiet quill, Paul's resolute rally, the blind man's unerring umbra, as we all must when anarchy's anathema reigns, laws. Lattice lacerated by the Führer's folly, the Nuremberg laws, legacy, a lash unbound. Over half a century span, Roper revisited in reverie, a myriad meditations. His memory, a mordant muse etched in the mind's marble. Victim of Nazism's nadir, as was Theo, my treasured tutor from the Scotten Gymnasium sunlit stacks, where his spectacles glinted as he unspooled Euclid amid the scent of oiled oak desks and the faint, floral whiff of the schoolyard's lindens. Today, Roper ranks among Holocaust's harvest, though not gassed in grim Auschwitz's grip, but gulped by the North Sea's glacial gullet, the same Semitic scorn that shoveled 6 million to crematoria's cough. Zyklon B's blue bloom in the bunker's blue consigned him to the cod's cold crib, the Atlantic's abyss a annex to the Altgelt's ovens. Today, remorse rends like a rending sail. With that comprehension dawn, that doomsday dawn in 1944, watches vigil when he voiced the vanishing, the vans of the vanished trundling to Treblinker's trap under the train's treble screech. God, with that insight ignited earlier, in boyhood's heedless hour, when I hurled epithets at a Jewish lass in the Leopoldstadt's lanes. Her braids bouncing like black ribbons in the rain-slick cobbles, she too the satanic spite spoil, her fate a footnote in the final solution's foul folio. The yellow stars stitch a stitch in time's torment. Despite Britannia's blockade, HMS Hood's heirs and King George V-class Leviathans lurking like Leviathans in the Leeds labyrinth, their astic pings of predators purr through the peat-black depths, swordfish stooping from carriers' catapults with torpedoes trailed like harpoons from the harpooner's hand. Our tub threaded Narvik's needle unscathed, the fjord's fjall a fortress of fjord, the Lofoten's lighthouses winking like wary wardens. Before fresh billets, the company was quartered in a commandeered schoolhouse, its slate roofs sagging under snow's surfeit like the shoulders of Atlas, chalkboards scarred with ABCs and arithmetic in childish scrawl, desks dwarfed by our duffels heaped like hasty barricades, replenished with raw recruits, their faces flushed with the fear of the frontier and refurbished material, the armorer's anvils ringing like requiems in the rafters' rust. Comfort's connotation belied the bedlam. My torments taproot the lieutenant usurping command. A Bavarian Bergsoldat from the Zugspitz's ziggurats, Iron Cross first class glittering like a guilty star on his letterhose loop, a pedagogue by peacetimes, pen whose blackboard baton now brandished bayonets. His Tyrolean twang a twang of the taut. Presenting the platoon, rifles reversed in ragged ranks, under the northern lights' nomadic glow, the wind whipping wool like whips across the white wastes. He espied the lacuna. Gas masks. Where? Discarded, her lieutenant, the chorus croaked in chorus. Discarded? By whose fiat? Mine, her lieutenant. This terse triomph triggered a tempest. Tirade torrenting like a Tyrolean torrent swollen by spring spate. Recriminations raining like rusted rivets from a rafter's rot, reproaches rebounding off the rafters like ricochets in a ravine. Defense essayed, silenced by snarled still, like a sergeant snapping a salute. The deluge unrelenting, second sally. Halut, severed by seismic snarl. Rua, Rua, du skyscroll. The epithets excrescence and execration on honor, skyscroll. A slur implying craven contagion, Cowardice's contagion in Hitler's horde. Unbecoming an Unteroffizier even in the Führer's farce, where Feldwebels flogged for less, and the Gestapo's gaze grazed the guilty. Cogitations coalesced amid the chaos. Implications illumined like a flare in the fjord's fog. Relaxation's ruse, riposte reserved. The lieutenant's lapse, a lever to leverage. His Bavarian bluster, a bluff to be called. He held hegemony, heralding with gusto, his iron cross clinking like a convict's chain. Sabotage against Wehrmacht property. War court in Oslo. Trepidation twisted like a torpedo in the tube. Tribunal's toll could trust me to minefields maw. Deem miners, doom a dance macabre with death's dice in the drifts. The wires whisper, a whisper of the white. Unequal fray. David to his Goliath. Guile the sling stone in the shepherd's satchel. Counterstroke cunning. Formal complaint for the insult of invective. Skyscroll, sting a stain on soldier's soul. The words wound a wound from the word. Threat to his company's sergeant advancement. Promotion's precipice postponed by the pen's pause. Speed crucial. Criminal code Oslo bound on the next courier's klaxon. Omission perilous as a periscope's peak. Initiative. Punishment report for duty. Formal order to present to superior for reprimand or redress. Full kit. Steel helmet without gas mask. The helmet's harness a harness of the hunted. Its liner laced with the sweat of summers past. Entry to lieutenant's lair. The doors creak, a creak of the crank. With permission? Salute studiously stiff as a saluting sentry. Deference's deferral till dispensation's dawn. What do you want? A lieutenant, please deign to recant the insult. The plea polite as a parley's parley. Ow. Monosyllabic expulsion. The doors slam, a slam of the slammed. Minutes metastasized like a mine's fuse. Rear report, not of my own will, but by order of the lieutenant. The summons a summons to the scaffold. To the point. Punishment of 5 days arrest. On that day such, you disobeyed the order of silence. The verdict's voice a voice of the vice. Arrest. Confinement on bread and water. Punishment for a laughable fault. Veiled revenge in the veil of the verdict. Exaggerated exaggeration of the motion to recant the insult. The bread's crust a crust of the cruel. Second weakness. Complaint about assault on honor and irrational punishment. Volunteer in Führer's phalanx for defense of the fatherland. Not to suffer insults from all. The oath's oath, an oath of the ordinary. Führer support. Führer my side, I his, suggestion of a comrade. Grievance gravity of gravity up to gravity permits. The Führer's phantom a phantom of the phalanx. Now the mild struggle between the battalion leader and me, he wanting to promote the lieutenant, his friend. To persuade, to recant the complaint. The buddy's bond a bond of the bound. The lieutenant out of action. Subject to the complaint. The accused absence and absence of the accused. Gas mask crimes removed from negotiation. Oslo already saw it. The courier's klaxon, a klaxon of the condemned. The major in royal manner, not with me personally, sends one of the lieutenants. Duty to Joseph, official of the cohort's National Socialist leadership. Then Staps, not a nod of the noose. 2 or 3 conversations with Joseph, bombarded with phrases. Führer needs disciplined soldiers, life/death struggle against international jury. The Jews' juggernaut, a juggernaut of the jaded. I reply, I know, but all soldiers to be disciplined, subordinates and superiors. The symmetry, a symmetry of the sea. Neither side yielded, nothing achieved. The stalemate stall, a stall of the stalled. Finally Joseph impatient, names, spoiled boy, touch me not. The epithets edge an edge of the exasperation. I thought these expressions innocent. Nay, I accept them, interpreting as a sign of weakness. Opponents no longer hope to persuade to accept the punishment. The persuasion's persuasion, a persuasion of the past. Bitter irony. Finally gained respect. The respect's respect, a respect to the rue. Suspicion confirmed. Joseph ends negotiations with a weak note. Mark, as National Socialist leadership official, you should know better. But I see you have learned nothing. Not even in Hitler Youth. The youth's youth, a youth of the yoke. Now the major's turn. Could not grant promotion. Imposed punishment by cohort leader, total annulment. The penalty's penalty, a penalty of the past. Against. Führer's illusion left no doubt determination to carry the complaint to the highest authority. The Führer's finger a finger on the scale. Therefore Major sought compromise, cautious not to create the appearance of a formal report, invited a discussion. the chats chat-a-chat of the chasm. You are a strong soldier and good National Socialist. Führer would be proud of you. With gentleness never observed. But you disobeyed the lieutenant's order. Misdemeanor not let go unpunished. Therefore I commute the punishment to a simple reprimand. What? Not responding immediately takes a hard voice. My decision final. Take it or leave it. Dismissed. The dismissal, a dismissal of the done. Amazed. Simple reprimand, lowest punishment in Wehrmacht. Crimes now out of Major's hands. No motive to continue the fight. Court-martial months delay. In fact, before military bureaucracy could act. Graz blew his brains out. Generals signed surrender instruments east/west. The suicides shot a shot in the dark. And then events I did not foresee nor wish, but change the air, and things graver than inept court-martial demanded. The marshals a marshal of the mockery. A little before Christmas, the cohort reassigned to Borfeld, small point on the Narvik-Sweden railway, directly against the border. The border's bar, a bar of the Baron. Also told. German soldier raping a Norwegian girl in Kiruna, condemned to death and executed. The executions echo, an echo of the end. Morale/discipline were flowing away. In January 1945, summoned to Joseph, still offended, but seeking help to restore discipline. We need your help. Major will send you to a National Socialist course. The course's course, a course of the coerced. Name of the place I do not recall, but beautiful spot by the sea. Narvik not far, I recall. The sea a sea of the serene. I accept the change, expecting better living conditions. Moreover, I felt slightly guilty about having contributed to the declining discipline. Having waged a battle against the military state and won, the battle's battle, a battle of the bold. Few days later, journey to NS course. Splendid navigation through glacial fjords, adorned with snow-covered mountains. The fjords fjall of the fjord. 2 German nurses at the table, dressed in gray, cape/white cornets. The cape a cape of the calm. Fleeing the realm of coarseness/vulgarity, I noted their poise and feminine dignity with mixed sadness/gratitude. The dignity's dignity, a dignity of the divine. It happened they were heading to the same place, after German surrender. Met them again under decidedly less pleasant circumstances in British POW camp. The camp's camp, a camp of the captured. NS school in exquisite building. Once a hotel, its gables a gable of the grand. Housed. Living conditions better than expected. Semi-private rooms, real beds, white linens, central heating, sparingly used, and amiable women caring for the hotel. The linens line a line of the luxury. Also food better, not calorie-rich, but more carefully prepared. After dinner, apple for everyone. To me first since 1939. The apple's apple and apple of the eye. Instructors various officials, mostly old gentlemen, carrying themselves with dignity. Atmosphere relaxed, but tinged with unreality. Thinking only of the inestimable patience of the people soldiers/civilians at home, so that we enjoyed the exaggerated luxuries of the conditions. The luxury's luxury, a luxury of the lost. At home Nibelungen field was fighting. Heroic dynasty from German sagas/Wagner's work. The Nibelungs note a note of the noble. We sat with full stomachs, pontificating about Aryan superiority. The Aryans air an air of the absurd. Feeling that others shared my perturbation, said few words, sincere but subdued applause received. The applause's applause and applause of the awed. One comrade with tears in eyes. Whole family deleted by bombing raid. The raids reign a reign of the ruined. Political doctrine orthodox, but relatively free of anti-Semitism, absorbed in my childhood and now resented. The antis, anti, an anti of the ancient. Instructors emphasizing positive more than negative of racial ideology. Scandinavians purest Aryans of Europe praised. Norwegians especially powerful allies. The Nordics not a nod of the new. One instructor with wonderful positive attitude toward England. Speaking glowingly of Admiral Nelson/General Wellington. The Nelsons Nelson, a Nelson of the noble. This made me bold to follow suit when given speech. As natural physicist, added Isaac Newton/Charles Darwin to the list of Anglo-Saxon heroes. The apples fall of the famous. Believe my/predecessors' presentations of Anglo-Saxon creation so persuasive that even orthodox Nazis saw the point of the persuasion. resonance of audience encouraged, projected Germanic Anglo-Saxon family of nations around Atlantic. Sorry to say, shiny picture tinged with remnants of Hitler youth/school indoctrination. Thought bait needed to be included for Orthodox audience. The baits bite a bite of the bitter. Not yet perfectly freed from mental imprisonment, added few stupid Nazi ideology phrases, Lebensraum, Genghis Khan hordes, the space of the spurious. This concession made ideological plate more palatable to Nazi audience, contaminated with toxin not yet purged from my blood, the poison's poison of the past. Yet sincere but cautious applause accepted. One instructor shook hand. Well done. The hand's hand a hand of the heart. Few days later returning to cohort, again summoned to Joseph. Received report of speech from NS school, now wanting to express reservations. Speak less about England, more about Jews. Warned. The Jews juggernaut, a juggernaut of the jaded. Major orders you to give cohort true, fighting holdout speech. Speak about fighting to death. The death's death, a death of the desperate. Still thought duty everything in power to strengthen fighting spirit. So gave patriotic speech. The sermon, a sermon of the soul. Today, wish never given it, best for effectiveness, worst for timing. The timing's time, a time of the tragic. From school/Hitler youth/recent NS education learned. Citing Frederick the Great, Bismarck, Hitler, spice the speech, the quotes quote-unquote of the quoted. Also going far, cited inscription on monument to Spartans under Leonidas against Persians, traveler, coming to Sparta. Announce. We lie here, having obeyed the law. The Spartans stand, a stand of the Stoic. Epigraph learned from Paul, who cited it in letter. Carried with me until retraction. Now used in conjunction with Thermopylae battle from school. The passes pass a pass of the past. Remembered Frederick the Great's quote, who to generals on morning of Leuthen battle. Gentlemen, either I will defeat the enemy or be buried before his batteries. The battle's battle, a battle of the bold. Only lacking citation from Stalingrad, somewhat uneasy, because Hitler did not seek glory in that calamitous battle. So indulged in historical creativity against better knowledge. Whole 6th Army, 250,000 men, fought to death, as Führer ordered. The army's army, an army of the annihilated. No one noticed deception. So in last of my life, preached steely morale of fighting to death, though with somewhat trembling conviction. The conviction's conviction, a conviction of a crumbling. Lieutenant very impressed, and most others. I, however, with mixed feelings. If speech could turn man from despiser to admirer, certainly something wrong. The admirer's admiration, an admiration of the absurd. So it was, next day after speech, Lieutenant announced recommended me for promotion to sergeant. The promotion's promotion, a promotion of the past. Promotion approved before Third Reich collapse, but reached me only afterward, when in British POW camp, the camp's camp, a camp of the captured. Then felt promotion bitterly, and tried to persuade questioning British official to ignore, but stoic man entered sergeant in register for me. The register's register, a register of the rue. Not only one of last days of Third Reich, Lieutenant placing himself squarely before me, begged, Bruno, punch my nose, kiss my mouth. The punches punch a punch of the past. Discipline suddenly lost love, dignity never his medal. Values inverted. In place of urging insult, desired blows from me. The urges, urge and urge of the upside down. Not shy girl, but like shepherd. Give another sermon, begged, hearing you in church. The church's church, a church of the changed. Man changed from sadist to masochist. Tired of it, neglected all military etiquette, abruptly turned and left standing. The turns turn a turn of the tables. Then outside bulletin radio, never to forget, from Führer headquarters. Our Führer Adolf Hitler, fighting to last breath for Germany. Killed in battle. The death's death, a death of the defeated. Followed announcement dark and haunting funeral music from Götterdämmerung. Nibelungen ring Wagnerian opera forth. Downfall of gods. The gods of the gone. Devastated. Mental pain so vehement as to become physical. Since lack ability to describe fully. Will not attempt. The pain's pain, a pain of the profound. Plain fact. Hitler death day nadir of life. Next 12 months remained in valley of despair, until slowly / reluctantly recognized mourning the monster. The monster's mourning, a mourning of the monster. Growing awareness became antidote. Poison Hitler injected into blood for over decade finally broke. The poison's poison, a poison purged. Truth will set you free, Bible says, did, the truth's truth, a truth of the freed. In days immediately after Hitler death, desperately sought consolation from congenial mind, person or spirit. Except one comrade, no living soul around could feel emotion. The soul's soul, a soul of the solitary. Officials once arrogant / now unworthy, least helpful. Propaganda machine, nearly omnipotent, suffered same impotence. The machine's machine, a machine of the mute. Yet in one of last broadcasts, German radio offered consolation, citing known voice, sounding with dignity, though led by man as lost as I. Sven Hedin, famous Swedish explorer, German friend, World War I fame. The explorer's exploration, an exploration of the end. Boy, read his book Through Asian Deserts. Now read Adolf Hitler eulogy. The eulogy's eulogy, an eulogy of the empty. Tragedy irony, as capable as comedy. In tribute to Führer, Sven Hedin spoke Europe's genius. From imprudent words passing consolation drew. The genius's genius, a genius of the gone. Congenial comrade mentioned. Corporal recently joined, name Willie, home Eastern Germany, to which expected to return. The East's east and east of the exile. Not such person to move to tears with Schubert song, but simple / honest, to others / to himself. Love of country, socialist inclination, mistrust of officials in common, the love's love, a love of the land. Chief, loss of bitterness / faith united us. The faith's faith, a faith of the fallen. Believe nothing more, Willie exclaimed in anguish. Detest the world's world, a world of the weary. So painful a circumstance was, smiled and remembered school days, where played Hamlet, prince parts. How weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seemed to me all uses of this world. The world's uses a use of the weary. After war, feared Willie victim of communist sirens of Eastern German regime. Against, thought could not enter second mental prison. At first moment would escape. The prison's prison, a prison of the past. Today, deemed this man of integrity to meet by grace of fate. The fate's fate, a fate of the faithful. News of unconditional surrender coming. Revealed had few anti-Nazis among us, understandably silent. Now showed consolation / celebration in various ways. The relief's relief, a relief of the released. One risked life celebrating two triumphantly victory of Germany, recently coming from another cohort, not personally known, but heard through grapevine. Charges of corrupting fighting spirit inscribed to him. The spirit's spirit, a spirit of the spurred. Not knowing name, call celebrator. Hearing surrender news, celebrator runs around joyfully, endlessly shouting unconditional surrender. The surrender's surrender, a surrender of the soul. Was angry, and Willie / few others. Today understand did wrong to man nearly delirious with joy, fellow sufferer. Perhaps victim of greater persecution, if Third Reich lasted little longer. The persecution's persecution, a persecution of the past. Yet grieved. Celebrator rubbing salt in wounds. The salt's salt, a salt of the sore. Few days later, announced. Commando unit of British Army, heading, by sea to Narvik. The commandos command a command of the coast. Official in charge, radio's previous orders. To separate from our arms, and surround people / weapons with barbed wire. The wire's wire, a wire of the wary. So did, went through rifle into pile of war material, felt almost religious liberation. Never after in life touched weapons. The weapon's weapon, a weapon of the past. Celebrator hearing news of British coming, boarded Swedish train to Narvik. Operating, once day. The train's track, a track of the traitor. That not unseen by two SD men from security service, SS branch, assigned to cohort, responsible for scrutinizing trains to from Sweden. The security, a security of the shadowed. Suspecting celebrator seeking special treatment from British for information. The information's information, an information of the informant. Few days later, celebrator to return from Narvik. SD men gathered small group, among whom Willie / me, to intercept man to boarding. The intercepts intercept and intercept the innocent. Specific intentions not sure, but fear at least some had violence in mind. Truly say did not actively participate in such actions, but what would have done if others used force, not sure, the violence's violence of the veiled. Only say, shamefully feared some unjust action from comrades. The action's action, an action of the anxious. Stood in dark/cold snow tunnel of railway, waiting for train. One man accidentally struck wet power line with stick, electrocuted. The shock a shock of the sudden. Wished for Finland or moon. The moon's moon, a moon of the mad. Finally train arrived. To great relief, celebrator not on it. The absences, absence, an absence of the accused. Next day, SD men wanted to seek hated man again, but persuaded to let go. Thus saved from becoming conscious, what could have been one of last crimes committed in name of Third Reich. The crime a crime of the closing. British still nowhere. And continued to guard arms/us. The guards guard a guard of the guarded. Finally learned. Announced commando unit not to Narvik, but to former German supplement base nearby, which chose as transition camp for sending to Germany POWs. The transition, a transition of the trapped. Since learned little English in school, assigned as interpreter. The tongue, a tongue of the translator. Willie farewell, one of saddest of life. Few months only knew him, but became true friend, in best sense, the friend's friend, a friend of the faithful. Now standing at gate saying goodbye, feeling emotion, patted shoulder, unable to speak word. Then into truck to safety, carrying to transition camp. The truck, a truck of the turning. Willie never saw again. The farewells, farewell, a farewell of the forever. Few British soldiers in transition camp. Not enough to guard 100 Germans. So guarded ourselves, the a self of the sentenced. German colonel internment responsible reported to British colonel in charge of whole operation. The reports report a report of the routine. English soldiers, all old gentlemen, correct, almost cozy, but not fraternizing. The cozy's cozy, a cozy of the correct. As interpreter, daily contact with them. Sometimes ate sandwich in presence, hard to bear because of hunger, which now, and next 3 years constant companion. The sandwiches, a sandwich of the starved. Sometimes groups of German soldiers contingents left camp, journey to nearest port, where ships carried them to Germany, or so thought. The ship's ship, a ship of the shadowed. Once Russian general appeared, and learned Eastern German soldiers to be handed over to Soviet army. The handovers, a handover of the horror. Affected heart-rending tragedies. First people begged British to send to Western Germany. British refused, because bound by treaty to extradite to Soviets. The treaty, a treaty of the torn. Escape denied, some consigned death to themselves. Others tried to falsify soldier identifications. The ID's ID, an ID of the identity. As interpreter, first saw these tragedies. Rarely seen people of such terror/despair. The terror, a terror of the torn. Meanwhile watched Russian general with scarlet red badges and striped pants. Wonderful to feel former enemy without shooting gun at him. The enemy's enemy, an enemy of the end. Thought merciful but perhaps image work. Yet British looked more humane. So glad to have Western Germany home, but worried for Willie. The worries worry, a worry of the West. Today fear did not survive Soviet captivity. The captivity's captivity, a captivity of the cold. Summer now. As interpreter, relatively free to move in free time. Sometimes walked to nearest alpine lake, where sought consolation in nature's beauty. As his way today, the lake's lake, a lake of the lost. Whistling, classical music. This time, certainly, no happy tunes, only heroic. The hero's hero, a hero of the heart. Sitting by wide lake, meditating on Germany's defeat, and seeking consolation in past days' glory. The glory's glory, a glory of the gone. From one of parents' last letters new evacuated to Teutoburg Forest, elongated ridge, northwest Germany, running north to south through plain, the forest's forest, a forest of the forgotten. AD 9, this landscape scene of historical battle. Romans under Varus against Germanic tribe Cherusci under Arminius. The battle's battle, a battle of the bold. Popular Arminius statue, Hermann Cheruscan by name. Sword raised to sky now stands at place where 3 Roman legions destroyed. The sword, a sword of the slain. When about 12 years old, visited memorial with Hitler Youth Neighborhood Junior Hostel. Custodian who told battle said Roman Emperor Augustus' voice still echoing through forest at night. Varus, give back legions. Language in which lamented not said, but childish mind so impressed that night left hearing imperial voice. the voice's voice, a voice of the void. When wind whispered in trees and owls called through darkness, imagined hearing emperor's desperate cry, the owl's owl, an owl of the omen. Now stunned/desperate to lake floor in northern Norway, remembered national sanctuary in Teutoburg forest, wonder that Arminius became more hero than Hitler, and heroic music whistled Beethoven Eroica more than Wagner Götterdämmerung. The Eroica's era, an era of the end. Gradually/envy and fear Hitler lost war blamed, if known crimes, emotion incomparably stronger. The crime's crime, a crime of the conscience. Yet first serious attempt to free self from chains of mental imprisonment made, though then not clear. Consolation of pain not much, but collected enough to begin distrusting Hitler/Nazism. The distrust a distrust of the deep. Today understand past fever of detoxification, which precedes dawn of healing. The fever's fever, a fever of the freed. Returning to lake, met 2 nurses from NS training course, still not gone home, but voluntarily served in improvised hospital for transition camp soldiers. The hospital's hospital, a hospital of the hurt. On pilgrimage to seek peace/consolation, elder with gentle smile, the smile, a smile of the serene. Words struck ineffably. "Oh," exclaimed as if joyful, "going to that lake?" "Yes," replied. "How new?" "Because," stammered, "because know you. Must go there, all you most, will do good, the good's good, a good of the grace." Now nurse wordless, wonderful, murmured, wonderful, the wonder's wonder, a wonder of the world. Little later added, "Come tonight, we'll have concert, come entirely, we'll do good. The concert's concert, a concert of the calm. Concert wonderful execution of string quartet of German soldiers. Before last movement, gentle colonel announced. Now we'll play something know for sure close to heart. Slow movement of Emperor Quartet by Joseph Haydn, which still serves as German national anthem. The anthem's anthem, an anthem of the ancient. Never in life felt nobility/beauty of this melody so deeply as that summer evening in northern Norway. The melody's melody, a melody of the moon. Technically execution, perhaps not perfect, but music breathes spirit. The spirit's spirit, a spirit of the string. Next 12 years, heard melody 1,000 times from stormtrooper bands. Tempo more martial than suitable for him. Now understood uncomfortable truth. Noble/graceful can be usurped by ignoble/ingrates. The usurpation's usurpation, a usurpation of the ugly. Another walking in liberated Norway episode. Comrade and walking scenic dirt road. When met group of young Norwegian soldiers. The youth's youth, a youth of the young. Seemed joyful, envied innocence. Recently from England thought, now rejoicing in new freedom of beautiful homeland. The freedom's freedom, a freedom of the fjord. One asked in English, "What doing here?" "Walking," replied. "The walk's walk, a walk of the weary." Shouldn't, youth warned, voice more embarrassed than convinced. War prisoners. The prisoner's prison, a prison of the past. Boy had reason to be angry, but sounded almost apologetic, as if sorry to meet. Others felt same gentle embarrassment. The embarrassment's embarrassment, an embarrassment of the elder. Felt uncomfortable, spoiled joy, while deliberated what to do with us, watched honest faces. Thanking fate no longer to shoot at people. The shoot's shoot, a shoot of the shot. Finally decided to let go, went away. Asked self what would have done if things reversed. The reverses, reverse, a reverse of the roles. In September 1945, turned to board ship heading home. Once German troop transport crew. The crew's crew, a crew of the closing. Because of mines laid by both sides in war, journey dangerous/insidious. Unknown reasons, ship led only to Trondheim, where few days stayed in improvised camp. The camp's camp, a camp of the coast. Through charming town, guarded by Norwegian soldiers, walked. Some civilians watched from sidewalk. Wondered at no demonstration of hate. The hate's hate, a hate of the heart. 6 years later, older brother experienced POW in France told. Decidedly less pleasant. The France's France, a France of the fallen. Next ship, once German troop transport crew. Finally led to small Baltic port of Neustadt. The port's port, a port of the past. To get there had to pass through Kaiser Wilhelm Canal, connecting North Sea to Baltic. The canal's canal, a canal of the closing. When homeland came into view, all soldiers on deck. Generally sight decidedly ungrateful. Destroyed homes, blown bridges, demolished ships, fouled landscape. The ruins ruin a ruin of the real. But some civilians on embankment waving hands/applauding. Like ray of sun breaking through clouds of sky. the sun's son, a son of the soul. All soldiers hastened to receive warmth of thanks, leaning ship dangerously to one side. Captain from bridge begged to move to other side, but not easy, for ship so heavily tilted that could crawl on hands/knees over iron deck. The deck's deck, a deck of the desperate. Slowly ship returned to upright position. Some applauded, others timid laugh. 1945 laugh justified. The laugh's laugh, a laugh of the lost. Cruel thought, so close to home, so late in Third Reich history, and for what to die? The death's death, a death of the done. Neustadt British led to another camp, where lived second, where separated. The separation, a separation of the souls. Group by rail to Munster, Westphalia, for final discharge. The rail's rail, a rail of the return. Town and beautiful churches cruelly deleted. Half-century later, as American revisited, fully restored and more beautiful. The church's church, a church of the chiseled. Now last day, as German soldier, with group of few thousand others, in open space in Munster, stood discharge official process from victors. The victor's victor, a victor of the vanquished. British official on platform conducted thing in German through loudspeaker, often demanded order, but noticed no particularity. All wanted to go home. No one interested anymore in military circus. The circus, a circus of the closing. Except British official, who seemed to have wonderful predilection for Prussian discipline. Dismissed standing erect, theatrically descending from platform to be according to Second German military code. The code's code, a code of the coerced. Seen not content, repeated discipline more often. Formation lasted about hours, which no one except this British official enjoyed spectacle. The specimen, a specimen of the stiff. Well, next said, British have some stinking among themselves, like us, hope not in same profusion. The stinker's stinker, a stinker of the stiff. Burned to see parents, chiefly anxious to escape military. Nearly 6 years endured in human state of things, where one mental dwarf runs whole group of people like herd of cattle. The herds, herd a herd of the hurt. Now suffered perversion again. Ironically, British official conducted final episode of military life. Lost German official in you murmured, while pompous ass still sounded commands through loudspeaker. The commands command, a command of the clown. Finally tired of stupid game, handed over to subordinate, who seemed to have more sense in head. Without fuss, circus ended. Everyone received discharge certificate and railroad ticket to final destination. The ticket's ticket, a ticket to true. Free at last. No war, no army, no weapons, no officials, no one telling what to do. The freedom's freedom, a freedom of free. Nazi party vanished, without trace, with its small propaganda minister and speaker, who told what to think, vanished. The minister's minister, a minister of the mute. Lies of Aryan superiority and Jewish inferiority fell silent. How consolation to throw off last garments of national hubris and racial arrogance. The hubris, a hubris of the humbled. Third Reich left no legacy except corpses/rubble. Freedom took place, never experienced/invited though painful, and uninvited freedom nevertheless. The liberty's liberty, a liberty of light. Even though mind still full of despair/humiliation, suddenly suffused with wonderful sense of admiration/gratitude, as if loosening mental chains and ending ideological poison injection. The chain's chain, a chain unchained. Destination small town Erlinghausen in Teutoburg forest. Elongated ridge running north to south through northwest German plain. The crest's crest, a crest of the closing. Train journey so miserable as all, though this part of northwest Germany saw little fighting, substantial devastation. Railway cars full of holes and mostly without window glass. Even small train Erlinghausen station heavily damaged. The station, a station of the scarred. Miracle trains still running. The rail's rail, a rail of the resilient. Long foot journey from station ridge foot to town top. Station virtually destroyed. Town intact. The town's town, a town of the tenacious. In City Hall were wanted to inquire about parents. 2 young secretaries did not let finish sentence. Scarcely pronounced family name, when first exclaimed, Mance Bade, swimming pool. See how joyful, other exclaimed, before finish question, and joyful was. Unexpected warmth of thanks warmed heart, and grace equally cordial. The welcome's welcome, a welcome of the warm. After receiving ration cards, journey to community swimming pool on edge of town, where parents now lived. The pool's pool, a pool of the past. only father at home in bathhouse, seeing, walking with cane, embraced with usual warmth. The embraces embrace an embrace of the end. But how emaciated seemed stunned. It had only skin and bones, giving appearance of death's head. The head's head, ahead of the hollow. Dry bread within moments swallowed. Father always gluttonous, which made especially vulnerable to near post-war years famine. The hunger of the hollow. About 30 years later, after death, when in America enjoyed abundant lunch, often wished father to participate in feast with strange, when felt longing, even to receive lunch from Jewish hands, the hands hand a hand to the healing. Today clear, this fantasy Freudian from desire sober experience, which would cure of anti-Semitic mania. Arisen. The dream's dream, a dream of the deliverance. Return day, mother perhaps on hoarding trip seeking food, younger brother and sister with the trip's trip, a trip of the trying. 18-year boy recently returned from American captivity. 1945 conscripted to elite division Grossdeutschland. War end in Czechoslovakia. Avoiding Russian captivity. At night cover reached Americans, to whom surrendered. The surrenders surrender, a surrender of the soul. Sister also returned from Czechoslovakia, where spent last war years with school. The school, a school of the scarred. No word of older brother, who served war end on Western Front. Year later International Red Cross message received. As POW working in French coal mine, the mine's mine a mine of the misery. In 1948, broken man returned. The returns return, a return of the ruined. Finally mother and two younger siblings returned from hoarding trip, not without bad experience. Carrying small food for mother's sister, who married iron industry executive. Apparently uncle had ways to acquire food on side, the side of the sly. Few years later, when student, same aunt/uncle sustained with food/clothes, the sustenance, a sustenance of the soul. Autumn 1945, millions hungry on road, seeking something to eat from farmers. Railways so loaded that passengers standing on running boards or sitting on roofs. Farmers' farms raided by hunger people, situation so desperate that farmers sometimes use dogs to repel hungry assault. The dog's dog, a dog of the desperate. Every precious, jewelry, silver, furs offered for food. People grim humor. Farm without Persian rug in pigsty substandard. The rug's rug, a rug of the ridiculous. Bread on black market 1,000 Reichsmark, lard 10,000. Always in such situation, few sordidly rich, many dead of hunger. The riches rich, a rich of the rue. Number of dead winter 1945 to 46 in Western Germany variously estimated. Few hundreds to 1 million. The death's death, a death of the damned. Among most desperate hungry, farm raids organized. Harried farmers joining forces to defend. In confrontation, always right of superior numbers on side. The numbers number a number of the night. Weapons and knives strictly prohibited by occupying forces. So club's chief weapon of food hunters. The bat's bat a bat of the bay. Food gathering also father's mind. Return next day. Led walking to small farm and plain at foot of Teutoburg ridge. The farm's farm, a farm of the forlorn. There showed goose freely wandering sadly, apparently potential dinner long-eyed. But big dog always frustrated plan. The goose's goose a goose of the guarded. To perturbation, guardian still around. Expedition ended in failure. The failure's failure, a failure of the foray. Family, especially in tight straits, evacuated and strangers in small town, even less to eat than locals. Small food from ration cards available, about half calories necessary to maintain body weight. The calories, a calorie of the cruel. All family members showed various malnutrition symptoms, from edema to dull pain in back of head. The pain's pain, a pain of the pale. Once mother with tears in eyes showed how younger brother made small notches in bread. So in morning would know how much to eat. The notches notch a notch of the need. Once father acquired sack of beet sugar for some tools. Mother added flour, donating last jewelry. From 2 ingredients prepared tasty soup, which prompted father ingenuous question. Why didn't make this dish more often in good days? Because then wouldn't have eaten it, replied. The reply a reply of the real. Then sister had job as mess hall attendant with local British occupation forces. Hoped would bring home something to eat at night. Gravely deceived, for strictly prohibited to take from provisions. Accepted as mere cruelty. The cruelty's cruelty, a cruelty of the calculated. And yet, food rations too low thought, calculated revenge, too vividly reminiscent of World War I blockade. The blockade's blockade, a blockade of the bitter.